Hello and welcome to Beyond Top 10 Tennis. My name is Dr. Ashley Berge and I'm your host. If you're not familiar with my work, would like to learn more about it, head on over to AM8 International, the first tennis lab of its kind worldwide that is centered on delivering top 10 tennis rankings and is 100% backed by science. This season, we're embarking on something new, something fresh, what I've been holding back. The changeover segments will deliver how to beat the best players in the world and or how the best players in the world are winning with top 10 to Grand Slam differences. Look, if you want more, that's where my 14 books come into play. So be sure to dive into them and become familiar with AM8 International and the 180 plus previous episodes. It's a new frontier and I'm no longer holding back. So as always, buckle in and enjoy the ride. Welcome to a special edition of the Australian Open. It kicks off, well, it's literally kicked off, I'm going to say a couple of minutes ago, roughly. But before we dive into that, we need to do the wrap, I'll say, of the WTA Tour, ATP Tour. We've got our new champions of the respective events, Adelaide, Hobart, Auckland, for example. That happened, I'll say about 12 hours ago or a little bit more. We'll do a quick rundown on the ATP rankings because last episode they weren't updated. WTA was updated. Time permitting, we're going to have a look at the draw, and then I might leave a different or a separate episode to go over the predictive analytics that we've historically done for Grand Slams to share with you who's looking to progress, etc. Keeping in mind, I think we have a turnover rate or a success rate, if you like, of around 85 plus to 95%, sometimes higher, of my data sharing who is progressing to the next round. I don't think there's any data actually capable worldwide that has hit those type of metrics. It's very exciting. So I don't always share it because of obviously it can potentially be misused, etc. So we'll see how that does go. And as always, any questions, please do send them my way. But I will be locking in for the Australian Open. I'm very excited. First Grand Slam of the year. All right, so quick rundown of the WTA Tour first. We're going to have a look at the Adelaide International. We're going to try to go, I'll try to go relatively quickly. Screen's over here, so I am going to be looking this way before I come back over here to you. And again, this is our new live segment. So I think this is our third or fourth one we've done. Feedback again. Let me know thoughts around that. All right. Andreeva was the number one seed. There was that late withdrawal we spoke about last episode, and Keys obviously there as well. So we'll do a quick rundown. All right. Buzkova over Badosa in 3 first round. And recall previous episode, I shared why that looked like it was going to happen. I like that it went to 3 sets. I think that's positive indicators for both players. Keep a note on Buzkova, even though she underperformed here. Australian Open, I think she could be a little bit dangerous, but we'll get there later. All right, Joint over Ken in straight sets. Tomljanovic over Torsen. Torsen unfortunately retired, so hopefully she is healthy for the Australian Open. She's obviously in the draw. Let's see how she pulls up. Sinead over Fernandez. Siniakova over Yastremska. That's actually a very good win for Siniakova on hard court, considering how well Yastremska has played historically at the Australian Open. Putinsa over Galfi, Navarro over Jones, good win for Navarro, Vondrousova over Samson, a very good win, 3-setter for Vondrousova over Samsonova. Look, she may very well have I'm not too sure, I haven't checked the seeding, but she could have snatched the last seeding available potentially. Otherwise, the rankings do align with that if the seeds were done obviously prior. But she's clawed her way back essentially because we know she had that big regression. And I think that speaks volumes, especially with the injuries, etc., what she's been dealing with. So that's a very good, promising performance indicator. Birol over Potapova. Birol is having an absolutely sensational start to the year. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if she can make some inroads in Australia or at the Australian Open. Let's see. Kazakhina over Sakari, Christian over Alexandra. That's a very big win there. Mboko over Haddad Meir. Very good win for Mboko. Again, Haddad Meir was ranked inside the top 10. I think we're going around just over 12 months ago. So we're seeing actually Mboko starting to correlate with her ranking, and we haven't actually really seen that consistently. So that's a very good sign. Kalinskaya over Ruse. Valentova over Ostapenko. Ostapenko had to retire. So that'll be interesting how she does go in the singles. We know she's probably going to play very well in the doubles. All right. Round of 16, Andreeva over Boskova. This was a very good performance indicator for Andreeva. She didn't have the best performance, I'll say, in Brisbane, but with how well Boskova has been playing over the last, I'll say, 6 months, very good win there. Joint over Tomljanovic. Tomljanovic had to retire. Again, let's see how Aya is for the Australian Open. Hopefully she recovers in time. Schneider over Siniakova 3. Siniakova, she's just been playing really good singles, especially last 6 to 12 months. Really amped up her game. Navarro over Putintseva. Burel got the walkover over Vondrousova. I really hope Vondrousova's healthy for the Australian Open. She really does deserve that. She's just had one too many setbacks, I think, injury-wise. The last 12, the last couple of years, really. Christian over Kazakhina, that's an upset. Well done, Christian. Mboko over Kalinskaya. 3-setter, tiebreak in the third. Really like how Kalinskaya pushed that. Good positive indicators there. But Mboko, well done. And Keys over Valentova, straight sets. All right, onto the quarters. Andreeva over Joint, I'll say as anticipated. Joint not playing her best, but I'm seeing Andreeva, she's picking up her game. And we've spoken about Brisbane here. Now Adelaide's up here. Maybe she's going to peak in time for Australia, whereas other players peak too soon in Brisbane, and we'll see them regress. Again, that baseline, depending where that is at. Schneider over Navarro, very good win there. And look, 3-3. Navarro's had a bit of a regression lately. Schneider is on the uptick, but again, she's been playing quite well. So now I'm interested to see if she maintains her form and if she can get that round 16 maiden berth or not. But I guess we'll find out in a week's time. Burel over Christian, very good win there as well. 3-setter. So Kimberly is going to pick up a number of points. I think potentially she will surpass her career high ranking, which I think is around 70. But again, when the updated rankings come out, I think tomorrow we'll see. But again, obviously the seedings for the Australian Open are going off from last week, not the updated rankings that happen obviously tomorrow because of the Sunday start. All right, and Mboko over Keys. This was a great match. Mboko first set, Keys really clawed back in the second. I was watching that as well as the third, but Mboko just too convincing, too many errors from Keys. And I did say it last episode, but it doesn't look like Keys is likely to defend her title. But, you know, never say never. Semi-finals, Andreeva over Schneider. This was actually a little bit underwhelming, as in respect. It could have been so tight. I really thought it was going to go to a 3. Andreeva was too good, 3-2. Mboko over Burel, I'll say as anticipated, 2-1. Mboko she's really started to correlate with her ranking. And again, end of last season, she really wasn't. Skyrocketed inside the top 30, winning Montreal, I think it was. And I think, 12 months ago, it was ranked around 300 in the world. So huge performer. But she's actually starting to correlate, which is very, very promising. We don't typically see that. So it very positive indicators there. All right, finals, Andreeva and Mboko, I'll say as anticipated, 3-1. Experience 1 out, even though I'll say similar age range, both teenagers. But it's what we would have expected from Andreeva. All right, so that is Adelaide wrapped up. Hobart, look, Raducanu, number 1 seed here. We did go over this. And Kessler's 2nd seed, so we'll go relatively quickly. Raducanu over Osorio, Fretch over Jackie Moe, Shramkova over Gracheva, Preston over Baez Miniero. That's an upset, good win for Taylor there. Jovic over to Jean, Zarazua over Baptist. I'm going to call that a bit of an upset. Wang over Gibson, Lynette over Selvativa, Maria over Venus, and that was 4-3. Similar age range. Venus is a couple of years old. Well, actually, no, she's more than a few years older. But Maria's obviously at the later end of her career. Had some, I think Wimbledon, she was peaking around then. Bit of a career resurgence. So that's a good win for her. Bonda over Seidel. Cocciaretto over Shimizu. Lee over Volniet, Ruzic over Arango, that's an upset there. Sierra over McNally, I'll call that an upset as well. Stearns over Krejcikova, that's a tough one. 3-setter, tiebreak in the third, but look, toe the line because Stearns or Payton, she can play some really good tennis. Her ranking probably doesn't correlate at the moment. She is probably ahead of that. So let's see if she can do some damage in the next week or so. Krejcikova, I'd love to see her, obviously, with her ranking, get back up there. And I think Krejcikova is one you can never rule out. Come on, she won Wimbledon when it wasn't really anticipated, but she is multi-Grand Slam champion and in doubles. You can never rule her out. Kessler over Danilovic in 3. Not surprised that Kessler was pushed to 3 because, again, Danilovic, she can be quite dangerous. Round of 16, Raducanu over Fretch walkover. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see if Fretch is healthy for the Australian Open. Preston over Šmamkova. That is good points on the line there for Preston. Jovic over Zarazua, straight sets there. Lynette over Wang. Bonda over Maria, Cocciaretto over Lee. That is an upset, 3-setter. Ruzic over Sierra and Danilovic. Danilovic over Stearns. That is interesting because, Danilovic went over Kessler, so I just read that incorrectly, that Danilovic did upset Kessler in the first round. My apologies. I did say Kessler got the win. So Stearns over Danilovic, that is a good win for Stearns. And I think historically Stearns has had some good wins on hard court as well. But so Danilovic with the win there, tracking through. I did get that confused, so my apologies. 7-6-6-1. I like to see that. Danilovic, she did have a bit of regression, I'll say the last quarter of last season, but that is a very promising sign. All right, quarters. This is the biggest win, I think, of Taylor Preston's career. She got a win over Raducanu, 2 and 4. That is big. Curious to see how Raducanu levels up this week. Jovic over Lynette. We spoke about how well Jovic finished last season. Another teenager, another one to watch out for. Let's see. I think it's only her second Grand Slam that she will be participating in after the US Open. Cocciaretto over Bonda and Ruzic's upset Danilovic. I'm calling that an upset because Danilovic, again, she has been as high as, I think, top 40. So good win there for Ruzic. Semi-finals, Jovic over Preston. Huge win there. And then Cocciaretto over Ruzic. Look, Jovic's one was 3-setter, Cocciaretto straight sets. Final, I'm calling this a big upset, but Cocciaretto scored a title over Jovic, 4 and 4. That's huge news. Well done to Cocciaretto and Jovic. Again, very curious to see if Cocciaretto, if she's able to ride that current peak or if she's peaked too soon, similar with Jovic as well. That is a bit of a, I'll say, conundrum that you face if you peak too soon prior to a Grand Slam. Why a lot of players, obviously, it depends, take the week prior to the Grand Slam off, but some, it actually works in their favour. All right, WTA Tour results done for the past week. I'm not going to go over the rankings because they will be updated, I'll say, roughly in about 24 hours. And I want to keep today's episode nice and tight. All right, so heading over to the men's, both of them are 250s underway. Don't ask me why, since WTA Tour just had 2 back-to-back 500s. One could have easily been a 500, but all right, in Adelaide, David Fokina was the number 1 seed. Second seed was Paul. All right, Hijaka, so Rinky over Schoolcake first round. Kokkinakis, I think that's his first singles win in over a year over quarter. A good win there, 3-setter. Vachereau over Kekmanovic. Humbert over Adame, Fuchsovic over Quinn, Shabenko over Zamur. That is an upset there. Machac over Duckworth, Howells over Fernley, Munar over Altamar. The biggest upset here, I'll say, Vukic over Tsitsipas. 2 tiebreaks, 7-6, 7-6. Vukic played some really good tennis. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by how Tsitsipas has been playing lately. Let's see how he plays in Australia at the Australian Open. Otherwise, I think we'll be able to tell a lot in those earlier rounds, first rounds, if he's going to, progress to, say, the round of 16. or if, first, second round, he may very well bow out, but we'll leave that to the draw. All right, Vasari over Diallo, Opelka over Poprin, upset there. Alexei, he was top 30 and he's had a big regression since. All right, round of 16. We do have Dadish Vakina over Hidaka, Vasharo walkover over Tanasi there. Hopefully Tanasi's shoulder has recovered for Australian Open. I think he's only doubles though. I don't believe he got a wild card. Humbert over Grekensport. That's an upset. Grekensport was the 4th seed. Shivenko over Fuchsovic. Machac over Howes. Munar over Sarandulo. That's an upset there. 3 sets. However, Munar, look, he's been as high as, or he's been seeded at the Grand Slam before. So not that surprising. And I think he's made multiple previously round of 16s at a Grand Slam, if my memory serves me correctly. Vukic, he kept going over Vasarori, straight set there, and Paul Goodwin over Opelka. Quarterfinals, Dadish Vakina over Vasharo, straight sets. Humbert over Shivenko, Machac over Minar, Goodwin there, and Paul stopped Vukic's run in straight sets. Semi-finals, I'm going to say we had some upsets because Humbert's taken out the number 1 seed, Dadish Vakina, in 3, and I did see that final set neck and neck, and for that tiebreak was huge. Well done, Humbert. Humbert, although, has been top 20 ranked, so not that surprising. Machac over Paul, however, is surprising in 3, but Paul has had a bit of a regression the last 6 to 8 months, roughly. In the final, Humbert, Machac. He was able to hold his temper together. Previously I have commented on that, and we have seen Machac simply withdraw from a lot of his matches when he could have finished when he was losing. Hopefully he has worked on that. Not the best sportsmanship record historically from that perspective. I'm hoping we're on the uptick here. Machac, Humbert, 6-7, 6-4, sorry, 6-7, 6-2. Nice and tight, all right? So that is Adelaide. Congratulations to Machac. Auckland, we are keeping pace. All right, Shelton's number 1 seed in Auckland, and Rudd was the 2nd seed. All right, so first round, Komasana over Royer, Brooksby over Watt, Baez over Nava, Tabillo over Uge Carabelli. I'm going to call that a little bit of an upset there. Giron over Mueller, Michelson over Navone, Norrie over Gaston, and Mapeshi Perigard over Butust Agut, Medalovic over Kogovic in 3, Borges over Echeverry, Spiritzi over Marino. That's probably the only upset so far. Madazan over Monfils. Ouch. Monfils, I believe, was the defending champion, so he will be docked some points, unfortunately. Also Gale's last season on tour. All right, first round results. Second round, so for what we've got for the round of 16, Shelton over Komasana, Baez over Brooksby, Darderi over Tabillo, Garon over Mitchelson. That's an upset there, although not so much because Giron played some really good tennis last season. Mapeshi Pericard over Norrie in 3, very tight. Mensik over Medalovic. Spritzy over Borges, that's an upset there. Spritzy is a qualifier and Borges 8th seed. Madazan over Rudd, that's an upset 4 and 4. Let's see how Rudd plays in Australia with that early exit. But he did play some good Tennis United Cup. Upset here, Baez, 7th seed, has upset Shelton, 7-5, 6-3 in the quarters. Giron has upset Darderi, the 4th seed, in 3. Mensik's got through over Mapeshi Pericard straight sets, and Madazan over Spritzy in 3. Wow. All right, so semi-finals, we've only got the 2-seeded players, Baez over Garon straight sets, and Mensik over Madazan in 3. So both seeded players did get through. Baez 7th seed, Mensik 3rd seed, and it did go with the seed. So Mensik got the win over Baez 6-3, 7-6 in the final. So well done to Mensik. Congratulations, and Baez. All right, that is the wrap there. Quickly, let's have a look at the rankings. Very, very briefly. Mazzetti's up to 5. I'm going to go straight from, instead of 100 to 1 downwards. All right. Felix is back to 7. But the biggest one I wanted to touch on, and we did insinuate this in our previous episode, Bublik is into the top 10. Career high ranking, huge performance. I think he could cause some upsets in Australia. And I mean, he is the 10th seed, so it's not technically an upset. But look, this time last year, I think he was ranked outside the top 30 thereabouts. But he's had probably one of the best 6 months on tour than any other player. Or thereabouts. We're not talking about winning Grand Slams, but really impressive result. He's just been working really hard, I'll say, in especially the smaller tier events, the 250s. He's just been performing really well. Draper's out, but I think we saw that. Medvedev's up 1, but we did touch on that. Rudd's just back 113. Rublev's at 14. All right, so everything else I think we did touch on last episode, but we thought this was going to happen. Tsitsipas is up 1-33, so maybe he won't be seeded, but I'm pretty sure when I saw the draw he is seeded. But I may be wrong there because it looks like Vachereau's gotten to 32. That's going to be interesting when they took the rankings from. Otherwise, Tsitsipas, I think if he's not seeded, it may be quite tricky for him to make some inroads. I'm not seeing any other big shifts. There we go. Hurkacz, he's up 30 points to 53. We did talk about that. So he is on his way back, which is great to see. That's probably the biggest mover. Mapeshi Pericard's one to watch out for. Martinez is up 25-71. Colignon's up 12-72. Just some small movement. House is up 6-85. But there's lots of progressions, regressions, blocks with an X at the end. He's up 20-95. And we're also welcome to the top 100, 20-year-old from Belgium. Medalovic is back 16, though, to 96. That's the biggest jump. And Kopriva from Czechia, he's up 1-100. But we'll see who made the cut when we have a look at the draw. All right, so that is ATP done. WTA Tour done, which means we have enough time, very briefly, because I'm not going to do a deep dive. I'm going to wait, have a separate episode exclusively for the deep dive into the draws. All right, so let's have a look at what's happening today, day 1. And then I will do a separate episode of breaking down the draws specifically so we can have a really good dive into that. I don't think we're going to touch on the qualies. I'm going to leave that. If you want to have a look at the qualifying rounds, go have a look at the AO site, for example. I'm not going to dive into that purely because I am trying to keep today's episode nice and tight. All right, we do have live scores, is underway, has kicked off. Paolini's up 5-1, for example. Rod Laverina, we've got Zverev in action. Sakari's down, looks like 2 breaks to Jean. Kaboli and Ferry, that's interesting. That's on serve in the first. Svitolina's in action today. Cerundolo and Zhang. I believe Zhang is a college player that match from what I read. Bublik and Brooksby, that'll be interesting. Sabalenka's up against a wild card. TFO Kubler, that'll be interesting. Venus is up against Danilovic. Ouch. Raducanu, Alcaraz is up. Yastremska's just gone down the first set to Ruse. Echeverry, Kekmanovic, jam-packed. I love the Grand Slams. All right. Gibson's, she's got the first set over Blinkova. She's got a wild card. If she gets this win, that is huge for her career. Big points on the line. Okay, they're all the live matches. Skulkate, Mute, Pavlyuchenkova, Zeng, Nori, Kostyuk in action, Fuchsovich, Potapova. Haddad Maier's got the first set against Putintseva. That'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Then we've got Baptiste and Vondrousova. That will actually be very interesting. And yes, Vondrousova did get the 32nd seed. It's right there. And Blocks, who's just made his way into the top 100, we just spoke about. He's against Faria. That's interesting. So we've got a lucky loser and a qualifier facing off in the first round. Big points on the line, I think, for both players. Just to cap off the next, I'll try and keep it tight, 5 minutes. Looking at the the WTA draw now, Sabalenka with a wild card. Pavlyuchenkova's in her sights. Raducanu's in her quarter. Mboko's there. Are going down. Polonina Kudermetova, she has changed countries. That's interesting to see. Torsen's there, 14 seeds. So looking, hopefully she is healthy. Kostruk's in this section. Jovic has got a seed. I believe it's first time at a Grand Slam. Fretch is in action. Let's see if she is healthy. And Palini, we did talk about. All right. And Gauff has managed to get in Sabalenka's quarter, which means Anisimova and Swiatek are in the other half. So not quarter, the halves. The winner of Danilich and Venus Williams will play the winner of Gauff and Rakimova. That's interesting. We did just touch on Vondrousova Baptiste. Makova is in this section as well. That could be interesting when round of 16 comes. Navarro's here, Svitolina, Krejcikova and Schneider. That'll be an interesting first round. They're very tough for both players. Sakari, Gingy, we spoke about, and Andreeva and Vekic. That'll be a big one first round. Pagula is here as well. And Bedosa. Stevens qualifying. Really good for Sloane Stevens there. Karolina Pliskova, she's here as well. And we know she's got, I want to say Grand Slam, but I want to say Grand Slam finalist as well. All right, and then Keys in this section, Noskova. Ostapenko there, Kenin. All right, and that's that section. I think that's where we're stopping. I could have overshot. Potentially I've overshot the top and bottom half because, Anisimova is now here, and I think we're starting the bottom with Anisimova, Waltert. All right. We'll check on that later. All right. Rybakina is in then Swiatek section, Anisimova as well. And only because I've overshot, it feels like, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll get to that later. So that's dangerous, I think, as well. Sulan Fotofotova, that'll be interesting. Joint Valentova, Balta Bencic. Let's see if Balta Bencic's been playing some phenomenal tennis. Osaka is in this half. Lies is in this half. Inglis and Birrell, big opportunity for both players. Kalinskaya, Cartel, and wait for it. So Buskova, Zarazua, and the winner of that match has the winner of Swiatek and Yuan. So that, again, will be quite interesting. So, yeah, I did overshoot that, but we will get back to, I think, a more precise with the predictive analytics, so I can give you a more accurate representation. All right, men's draw preview very quickly. And, again, I'll leave a more concrete view with the analytics, etc., for the next episode that we do, a special one in particular. All right, Alcaraz has Walton. You need to obviously favour Alcaraz, but, Walton is an Aussie. You never know with an Aussie crowd. All right. He actually looks like he's got a pretty good draw until Paul's there, Kokovic. Although Paul, we spoke about that regression lately. David Fekine is there. And look, he's been playing some good tennis. And Bublik's there. Again, good tennis. Kaboli, Tiafoe, Diminor. Looks like it could be, I think if I'm reading this correctly, a quarterfinal collision course between Alex and Alcaraz, potentially. I don't think that's a semi. I think that's looking at a quarter, which is a bit rough. But again, I'll confirm when we have a better look at the draw. And Zverev's in this section with Alcaraz. So, yeah, it would be Zverev and Alcaraz as a semi-final per, I guess, the rankings breakdown. Poprin's here. Is that this actual draws have opened up, I think, for a lot of players. Medvedev, wow, it really has opened. Oh, here we go. Felix is there. Felix Ogo, Elisame, and Mazzetti. I think Mazzetti, though, is in the bottom section, if I'm reading this correctly. Dimitrov is not seeded. And, Dimitrov has a Machac first round. Machac coming off that title, and that'll be interesting. Tsitsipas did get the seed. He's the 31st seed, so he did just scrape through. I'm going to say very lucky for that. Wawrinka got the wild card. Very happy for that as well. All right, we've got Fritz here. I think we're in the bottom section now. Mensik. Her case is not seeded. Bergs. good opportunity there. He potentially has Greek and Spore, I'm going to say, and then good opportunity for Hurkacz to make some inroads potentially if he's playing as good as tennis as he played at the United Cup. All right, Jovic is in this section, which means Jovic and Sinner are in the same court, well, half. Shelton, Monfils has Sweeney, Shapovalov is in here, Silic, former and Rudd, and has Bellucci, Kakanakov, Michelson, Mapeshi, Perriga, Baez. Fonseca's in this section as well with Wu. Wow, all right. So Sinner has Gaston first round. Could get Princemic, lucky loser. Princemic, I think, had some good inroads last Australian Open, but he didn't really. His last or the one before hasn't made the inroads up the rankings as anticipated. But third round potentially on course with Fonseca. I think that would be very noisy for the crowd, but that's it. All right, I'm going to leave the Australian Open wrap there. We've had a really quick rundown of first round, some of the draws, but I'm going to, and it was very vague. So if you want a more concrete one, wait for the next episode I'm going to do especially for that. We've gone over the WTA wrap of the past week and ATP Tour wrap of the past week. So we're all caught up, especially with a quick rankings overview. So that's it for today's episode. But stay tuned because I'm going to do shortly after this a special episode with the predictive analytics, and we can have a bit more of a deep dive. So thank you so much for listening. To grab your copy of any one of my 14 books, you can find them on AM8 International or Amazon. If any comments or questions, head to AM8 or Topic Thread, or leave comments directly on YouTube or Spotify. To interact with Beyond Top 10 Tennis, catch up on my blogs or sign up to my newsletter, head to our AM8 International. And remember to check out Pink Octopus Books to Spruik. Look, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, like, share, and all of the above. Beyond Top 10 Tennis exists for you, near and far. Look, and if you're serious about heading towards the top 10 or want to know what your game is missing, don't be shy and come and say hi. And because this one wants to say hi, before we wrap up today's episode, you might see the other one in future episodes. Look, thank you so much for listening. I am so incredibly grateful. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Morgan Berge, and this is Beyond Top 10 Tennis, and I'll see you next time.